The 317 Express was already packed. A symphony of rustling newspapers, the rhythmic clatter of the train on the tracks, and the low hum of frustrated sighs filled the air. But for Karen, none of it mattered. This was her seat. She'd secured it strategically, a prime location near the door, offering both optimal proximity to the exit and a commanding view of her fellow passengers. She'd spent the last hour meticulously planning this commute, a testament to her unwavering dedication to personal comfort and a subtle sense of territorial entitlement. The faint scent of her expensive perfume a carefully chosen weapon in her arsenal of subtle dominance wafted through the air, a silent proclamation of her presence. She surveyed the scene, a queen observing her subjects. Today, the kingdom was the subway car, and she intended to rule it. Then, disaster struck. A woman, her face etched with the weariness of a long day, approached Karen's coveted seat. Karen's eyes narrowed. This wasn't a casual passenger, this was an intruder. The woman's grocery bag, overflowing with what looked like the makings of a hearty, possibly slightly chaotic, dinner, was a blatant violation of the unspoken code of subway etiquette, at least according to Karen. The unspoken agreement, the quiet understanding, was that a seat like hers was meant for those who, like herself, knew the value of a good place to rest after a long day of asserting herself. The woman looked tired, and perhaps, just perhaps, a little bit vulnerable. That, Karen decided, was unforgivable. Karen's lips tightened, a subtle shift in the carefully constructed section 8 of composure. The air around her seemed to thicken with unspoken threat. The woman, oblivious to the brewing storm, continued her approach. It was a classic David and Goliath situation, with Karen playing Goliath. Of course, the woman's quiet exhaustion was, in Karen's opinion, no excuse for her audacity. It was a transgression, a challenge to the social order Karen, in her own mind, meticulously upheld. A quiet war was about to erupt, all because of one single seat on a crowded subway. The tension was palpable, hanging in the air like the stale breath of 1,000 rush-hour commuters. The woman hesitated, her eyes flickering nervously toward Karen. The weight of the groceries pressed into her arms. The physical exhaustion was evident in the way she shifted her weight from one foot to the other. In her eyes, a flicker of uncertainty, a silent question hung in the air. Dare she intrude upon this territory, this carefully guarded space? The moment hung suspended, a tense tableau playing out in the noisy confines of the subway car. The other passengers seemed to sense the impending conflict, their gazes drifting subtly towards the two women, a silent audience to this unfolding drama. The other commuters, seasoned veterans of the subway wars, observed the unfolding drama with a detached amusement. They'd seen it all before, these silent battles for territorial supremacy. The unspoken rules of subway etiquette were well known, understood, and often violated. Yet, the subtle shift in the atmosphere, the tightening of lips, the narrowed gazes, these were all telltale signs of a conflict about to erupt. It was a familiar scene, a daily ritual played out in the metal carriages, a silent acknowledgement of the often invisible hierarchies of urban life. Karen, ever the master strategist, subtly adjusted her position. Her handbag, a symbol of her status and, now, her territorial claim, shifted slightly, taking up more space on the already limited seat. The newspapers she carried rustled like a subtle threat, a clear declaration of her intention to hold her ground, a nonverbal communication that said, "This seat is occupied, and I am not moving." The woman, caught in this silent but fierce power play, seemed to shrink slightly, her shoulders slumping under the weight of both the groceries and the unseen pressure. The woman, defeated, quietly moved away. She chose not to engage in the conflict, opting instead to stand, her weary body bearing the silent burden of Karen's victory. Karen, triumphant, leaned back with a small but satisfied sigh. The battle had been won, the territory secured. The queen of the subway car had successfully defended her throne, a victory celebrated silently, in the small, subtle adjustments of her posture and the faint, satisfied smile that played on her lips. The silence in her wake, however, was a testament to the silent battles constantly fought on the urban battlefield. Karen settled into her seat, opening a magazine with a flourish. The world outside the window blurred into a meaningless kaleidoscope of sights and sounds. Within her meticulously curated bubble of comfort, only the satisfying feeling of victory remained, The subway rattled on, a soundtrack to her quiet triumph. She was the undisputed queen of this particular section of steel and plastic, a silent testament to her ability to maneuver through the complexities of rush hour transit primarily through intimidation. The woman stood, silently absorbing the defeat. The weight of her groceries and the invisible burden of unspoken societal pressures weighed heavily upon her tired shoulders. She wasn't fighting this battle today. This was a small, seemingly insignificant battle on a much larger war against the relentless pace of urban life. Her quiet acceptance was almost as poignant as Karen's blatant triumph. The scene played out as it often does, a silent commentary on the little conflicts, big and small, we encounter daily, highlighting the subtle, unspoken power dynamics hidden in the most mundane of interactions. The subway continued its relentless journey, carrying its passengers each a tiny island unto themselves, fighting their own private battles for comfort and control, on a journey towards a destination both personal and shared. The unspoken dramas played out in the crowded carriage were a microcosm of the broader struggles for space and status in the bustling urban landscape. Karen's triumph was one small piece of a much larger puzzle, a quiet testament to the perpetual human need for dominance, even in the seemingly inconsequential spaces of a daily commute.